Meeting order, please.
Back.
Welcome to the March 19th facilities meeting. I'd like to take roll call. Dr. Grande. Here. Mr. Henry. Here. Mr. Miller. Here. Mrs. Holbert.
Here.
And thank you for the rest of the members to come tonight. I'd like to move forward with the approval of the February 19th facility meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. As we start every meeting with our mission and vision statement, tonight's agenda, we're talking about the ICS updates, a demographic update of the study, the high school and middle school bleacher and safety inspection results. And we have a request from someone in the town to name our SRS basketball courts, which I think has been shared with the members of the committee already.
You have another copy.
A copy of.
I'm going away.
On the ICS project for the 10-year capital plan, staying very close to the timeline right now. Today, we had a meeting with all of the high school principals, a 5-hour meeting, and went through all of the floor plans in the schools, the principals' wants. We did ask for top 5 of what they would like to have in their schools, and we went through all that data. ICS is collecting that data and starting to mold it into the report with all of the facilities assessment, retro commissioning reports, the GKO studies, CRA studies. That's going pretty smooth. We'll be having a meeting in April 8th with the community. That's being set up. Rachel will be sending something out on that. As for the project itself, we've established weekly Zoom meetings every Thursday morning. We get together. ICS has received all of the internal staff surveys. They have received the markup floor plans, and today we went over them, made some modifications and clarifications. We performed the initial capacity analysis for space planning purposes. We have scheduled follow-ups with the principals, which happened today. We're reviewing the updated facility assessment information, and ICS will be incorporating that into their software. Next week, we're having walkthroughs of the buildings with ICS. Myself, Tom, and the principals will be walking them through each building so they can do their own assessment of each of the buildings. The demographic update, the study, talking with the people at Pell. They said they will have it done to us by the end of next month. I'm sorry, the end of this month, March, complete. They've asked for some inputs from us. I've got in touch with Derek Clements over in the admin wing, and he's gathering some information, putting it into a shared spreadsheet so we can share that information back and forth. And they're looking for a little further breakdowns right now, per grade, per school, so they can really start to look at that, and then ICS can input all of that into the presentation for us, into all that data. Preliminary data is showing that there is not going to be much growth. It's at that same of the 2022 study. Maybe a percentage or 2 difference, but not that much. So right now, ICS is using that data for their report until they can get the new updated. And as I said, the project projection is for March 31st to be completed. Project updates. A PO was issued to Tri-State Fire Protection, and that's to install a drive system over at the high school in the spray booth. That spray booth is in between the wood shop and the old auto lab. So they use it for spraying varnishes, doing, lacquer and those type of things. Presently, there's no fire suppression. That came up in an insurance audit, and we're trying to get that installed by the end of next month. Bleacher and sports equipment, I mentioned it last month, we had Made in USA in. The estimate did come in at $90,500 to retrofit the high school bleachers. It's changing 1,500 wheels, spindles, bent metal locks. That's why we were having the issue with bleachers coming out, cattywampus getting locked, and also replacing a bunch of cracked seating. They provided me the other day of a breakdown. I asked to have it more itemized to say, can we maybe not do the seats, but do all the rollers and everything else? And truthfully, it was about a $10,000 difference, not that much. So if we're gonna do it, I would make the presentation to committee say we should just do it and get it fixed completely. Seal coating and striping of the parking lots here at the middle school. We're at the 95% complete portion for the RFP. The only thing we have to do now is plug in dates for when we want to have our bid opening, when we want to advertise it in the paper. That project, depending on, I hate to say the word tariffs, and it's based off the asphalt index, could come anywhere between 80 to maybe 100K. And that would be for only line striping, all the parking spaces, numbers, fire lanes, all curbing, and it would be every bit of macadam except for this area out here in the back. So it would go all the way into behind the Spencer House and the parking lot, which was the old tennis courts in that area. Concession stand, we're working with the boosters right now. We've removed all of the carpeting. It's ready for them to paint. I provided roll-up door pricing. I think they're going to be moving forward with the less expensive option of having the rollers on the inside of the building, not on the outside of the building. It was substantially, probably about a 60% savings doing it on the inside versus the outside. So it's about a $10,000 project to put steel doors in. However, then they could also do some advertising on those doors or put some logos on it to really brighten it up. The concession stand patio repair out front, which I had brought up to the committee before. We had a survey crew in last week or the week before to shoot all the elevations of what we need to do. So then we would have the ability to go out. We're looking at doing a stacked stone wall in between the fence and the concession stand, but only about a foot from the track fence. So there'll be no walkthrough. There'd be an elevation of about 3 to 4 feet from the track to where the area would be. The area of the patio then would be done in macadam, in asphalt. There'd be fencing along the front. It would also have the ability for ADA customers to watch the game from that elevated height. And then we'd also be looking at putting in an ADA ramp on the visitor side of it to the point where right now it's a very high slope and it would be very hard for someone in a wheelchair to be able to get from the stand to the area up to the bathrooms. So it'd be flattening that whole area from the bathrooms to the concession stand and then putting in a 3-type tiered level that would meet ADA to get down to the level of the track. We're hoping that we'll be able to go have that RFP done and go out to bid within like about the next 5 weeks. Baseball scoreboard. The scoreboard, the electric has been run from the existing scoreboard out to left field. We're waiting on AC Signs to come in with their crane truck and set the new I-beams for the sign. I've been on them to get it done sooner than later. Baseball season starting today. The softball scoreboard, we had KC Signs out to work on it. They could not work on it. They couldn't get the scoreboard to work. So we brought in Daktronics. They're a supplier to KC Signs of the Wi-Fi connection between the handheld and the board. They were out and they ordered a new module that has to be installed. We're hoping within the next week, week and a half, that board will be up and running. Presently, right now, what was happening, you would operate the handheld for the softball and it would turn on the lacrosse one. So we're working through that. The NPE elevator, right now the elevator is moving up and down. We had a little bit of a glitch last week where we purchased a whole new controller. And within that controller, there was one part that came in dead. And it was a soft start controller, which operates a relay, which operates the motor. What was happening every time you triggered the car to go up or down, the relay would be popping in and out, in and out. So the controller wasn't functioning correctly. They got a new controller in yesterday. I met with the technicians today. They just have to add another couple switches in the elevator, safety switches that weren't there. So it's getting upgraded. One for the hatch and then do some rewiring. I'm hoping by Friday it will be functional. And I'm waiting to get an answer back from Excel on state inspection, how long that's going to take for the inspector. If I don't get an answer tonight and get it tomorrow, I'll put something out saying when that will be to the committee. 101 mobility, the chairlift, we canceled that project based on last meeting. And SRS Pico, we're still working with Pico and McNeil boilers. We have an issue where we have a drop in volume of the gas pressure where we cannot operate both boilers at the same time. That only has to be done in extreme cold conditions. However, what's happening is that when we crank on the second boiler, the volume of the gas goes down so far, it shuts both boilers. So we had Pico out once. They put a new diaphragm in and gauge. However, it didn't do it. It was still knocking the volume down. So they have to come out again and work with McNeil and probably tweak it up a little bit higher. We just don't have enough pounds pressure coming into support both boilers. Future projects, CM3 retro commissioning priority 1, 2.2. I gave a copy to the committee of what that involves, and we're looking at 183 or so repairs focused just on the high school. The high school repairs will not affect anything dealing with the renovation. It's dealing with air handlers, it's dealing with heating cords, it's dealing with everything involved with the 4-story addition and some towards the pool pack and the administration. But they're going to be hitting 183. If it's approved, they'll be hitting 183 units based upon the study that came out, that 600-page document. So on the report, it has a bunch of addresses of what it is that coincides to what the repair would be. That cost to do that project never mind. 739. 739 in that time frame would be about a 4 to 5 month to complete that. We'd like to grasp that and I'll make the plea to have that done and approved so we can get a lot of the wet work done over the summer when the kids aren't in the building. I mentioned the seal coating, concession stand upgrades, and I'm still trying to get another 2 vendors in for irrigation of the fields to get costs in. Right now I have 1 price in, and it's about $40K to do the baseball and $40K to do the field top. And other topics that we've been talking about through the year, we'll continue to touch those when we get to them. Dr. Grundy, have any questions on? Sure.
Let me ask on the committee first.
Thank you, Bob. That was good. Just a couple things I had. Thank you for bringing, the principals were in ICS today. That was nice to
Yeah.
hear. But, just for the board members here also, I believe the band director was in.
Oh, yes, the band director was in, Nick was in, as well as, Tom. Assistant principal.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So they also got their input for renovation of the high school because, we have such a big band and Tom's been around forever. So it's nice to
It
hear.
definitely brought up some other topics that weren't covered in the initial request for the renovation.
Oh, that's good.
So that additional input will definitely help and definitely hit the needs because the amount of classrooms that we're adding based on that discussion quite possibly might not be enough.
Right, that's usually the case. So thank you for that. The other, I had a question regarding the concession stand patio repair. You're getting the estimates now. Is it your objective to have it done by football season, like August or whatever?
Yes, well, right now we're drafting up the plans. We're meeting with the town next week because we don't feel that it's going to have any issue with water whatsoever because the way the runoff is and it runs down into the turf, which has underground drainage in it already. We have the drawings at about 85% or so. Shirley's working on those. And then once we get the approval from the town that says there aren't going to be any issues, then we can move forward, get a package together and go out for an RFP.
Okay. I'm just curious to know your timeline. Was it?
I know we clarify this most meetings, but there's a lot of numbers on there, a lot of dollar amounts. Just for the good of those watching. That money already budgeted in. We're working within a budget that's already.
Yes, it's just budgeted dollars for that have been set aside for facilities.
That is not.
So depending on what you're specifically talking about.
I think there's just there's not a fine line that's easy to draw between preventive maintenance and deferred maintenance. And some of the things that I think come up here, things you need to think about. Some of the things that come up here, you should be thinking about the preventive maintenance budget. And again, it's not always easy with some of these items to say. That's definitely preventive or
Right. The deferred
repair.
repair is now preventative because we did it.
Right. And, I want to add, presentation for capital plan. It is pertinent because there are some things I'm talking about. District coming up with $300 to address that as opposed to doing the capital plan and part of the time not with the budget. And so we do the debt service might be a fraction, before $50,000 back in the service. So the district coming up with $80,000. So I do think we do have to be careful. And we don't want to be doing things like picture. As we look at those, which is why that's so important because the team is definitely going to go and provide a dollar amount every year. And the district can honestly plan that out, see if it's the best financial option and these two packages.
Then assuming that was all coming from them. It did seem like a lot to, when I know we've already spent some of it. Remind the committee the irrigation, the field irrigation work that you're about. What does that 40,000 per field?
What that provides is controller, provides a booster pump to get the pressure needed, provides all of the PVC piping, all of the heads to irrigate the entire field.
So it's obviously irrigated from below, there's something above the
No,
ground or anything like that.
right now we use a cannon, a water cannon, and it has to be set up and then moved and set up. Where this will promote better grass growth, will we'll promote a much better turf. A better product.
Also, just to put this on, I don't know whose radar, but this is kind of a facilities thing. When I walk in the mornings, as I always do at around 7:30 on Saturday mornings, inevitably I run into people who are confused about the wrestling or the cheerleading, or especially worrisome are the tests, SAT and the other tests that are going on. The kids are coming in from other schools and they are completely stressed out because they need to like get in the door by a certain time. And there is always a certain percentage that wind up at the bottom, at the Brookhaven
Right.
entrance rather than the Providence. And, I've led groups around like Pied Piper and, are just redirected, but people are super stressed out at those times. I don't know if somebody can be, I don't know what signage needs to take place or like emails that need to
I
be
think we
sent
can do a
out.
lot of signage on the doors. We have a nice LED sign out front, possibly on days of testing or whatever, we can utilize that.
I'm less concerned about, the sporting events, but the test days, it does seem a little, unfair. I have seen parents just drop their kids off. And honestly, even the parents who are coming from other schools, they don't realize that the way to drive. So we get nearly head-on collisions with people who know how to go around and people who go in and
People
out.
just make that left and
Yep.
get to the door.
Exactly. I've always thought like maybe we should have arrows there, but that's
Well, we put
another
some
thing.
stencils this year for arrows, and Tom and myself and Tom Rulli are gonna be going around because we have an issue at the loading dock by the cafeteria there as well as in the front. To add some additional arrows, which hopefully will alleviate that problem.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Couple other questions. So the April 8th meeting, I just want to make sure they have a communication plan. Parents, so making sure that's getting pushed out through other channels as well. So it's like the Swarthmore, it's a good channel, but there are other channels as well.
Tomorrow's meeting, Rachel is gonna be sitting in on our meeting with ICE. Jim invited her to sit in, so hopefully, almost around. Rachel Riley will be sitting in on our Zoom meeting and getting an update of what we would like to present and where we'd like that.
And then I don't know that it's material to the study. Maybe a small, but generally speaking, we always say how we district. We do happen to have a thing in Wallingford-Swarthmore right now. It actually is the actual, but it's a fair number of units. I think the projections are that they are not likely to. Yeah, exactly. That they're not necessarily being built out. Where you might expect like families with children to reside there, but it'd be good to at least have them take a look at that development to see whether or not they think it has any material impact on the projections.
Well, Pell requested information from the town, and I sent the information of the township manager and contact information for both Nether Providence and South.
And then I just want to clarify around the parking lots, because I think it was written as like seal coating and line painting, striping. But it sounds like there will actually be some new paving going on, or no?
No new paving. There'll be crack filling, and in the parking lot areas, there'll be 2 coats of Seal Master
Okay.
seal coat, and in the driving areas, there'll be 3 coats.
Okay. As you mentioned, the old tennis court area, is that an area that needs more than cracks filled, or?
I think we can get away with the right panel. There are some other areas that we're hoping the crack filling will give us another 5 years. And then we'll look at a bigger project of milling if we need it.
Okay. And then the last question, around the softball scoreboard, that's new equipment, isn't it?
It is, it's a new scoreboard that I'll say wasn't installed for a couple of years. And then we finally installed it, and when we got the handheld and the receiver, put it on and tried to fire it up. It triggered the lacrosse score. So
And are
Tom
we,
Rowley is supervisor. He's working on it now with Daktronics.
so are we incurring a cost to test this, or is it a fair part of the?
I think that,
or did we-
I think it's a little bit of self-infliction. Yeah, we might have misplaced, or it was sitting around for a couple of years. So either the receiver got mismatched or the handheld.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it was what was installed.
What was installed, the receiver was already in there. Handheld doesn't made up.
We don't think we have any ability to recover or whatever.
It's been a battle with,
It's something
somebody,
with.
a
Okay,
bunch of things.
that's it. Okay. I'll always ask that question when issues arise, understanding where the error lies, whether or not we have rights to
So,
recover.
if we have the rights to recover, we're going there.
That's all I had. Any other board members have any questions?
One comment to your comment about the community outreach
Yeah.
for the, capital project. I've mentioned this before, and it's nothing that we can do here collectively, but I will follow up. I've seen other schools on their websites that you can sign up for an email update, even if you don't have kids in the district. So this would come in handy for that purpose. So maybe, I don't know, would that be Rachel Riley? So maybe we should ask her to set something up so that our community, even if we don't have kids in the district, could get updates.
And just to mention, Dr. Shannon did talk about, because of the size of this project, we can kind of create like an additional link website where people can actually follow this on top. For community meeting, the updates, the plan, and then they can kind of see when projects are starting. That is something.
Okay. No, I don't have anything.
I have, two questions. On the baseball scoreboard, what is the cost of, what are we paying? What are we including?
I don't think I have the costs on here. If I recall, I think the cost for moving the scoreboard was about 14K. And the electric's gonna come in somewhere around 3,000. We were trying to get a new meter off of a Pico pole to shorten that distance, but Pico would not allow the meter. They said we already have electric out on the field. Trench it.
I think the numbers in the slides from last month, so if you wanna see those numbers, I don't remember that. Slides.
Okay. And, what is the, maintenance that's gonna be done to the pool?
You mean on a yearly basis?
No, you mentioned the pool
Oh,
in,
I said the pool pack. The pool pack is the air conditioning and dehumidification unit that's up on the roof. That would be part of the, that is part of the CM3 priority 2.2 repairs.
I thought the pool was getting some patchwork done.
We are working with CM3 on a grant preliminarily. There's a 50% grant out there for HVAC equipment that we could possibly go after. if the pool is utilized by the community in any way. So we have to look at that usage and wording and see if we can put that in and then get with finance.
Don't they still have Saturday swim?
No,
No, the
No.
only thing right now it's used for some lifeguard training. But it might be worthwhile to open up Saturday swim if we could.
We'll open for any public comment. I do want to mention that the board is trying to create some consistency of how we run public comment at committee meetings. We've had some committee meetings where we have one person. We had a recent committee meeting where people were at the house.
More than 50.
50, so it was like in the auditorium. So generally, for all the committee meetings, public comment, we're going to ask folks to, package your questions and comments. If there are specific questions, the administration is very happy to follow up on detailed matters. But we'd like to try to stick to the format that I think we can apply across committee meetings and have just a focus set of comments. So do we have it this evening?
Dave Sarah Morris Lane, real quick. There's also a development on Moore Road. I believe there's a development offer. At least it's proposed. So yeah, there are things that are happening. The communities. Where will the April 8th meeting be held?
It's going to be held in the auditorium here at the middle school.
And how, we kind of mentioned it. How do we get invited?
If you could just
Well-
package all your comments or questions.
How do we get invited? And then lastly, did we actually say anything about the naming of the basketball court?
No,
I don't think we said anything.
no, we didn't.
Okay, that was it.
Thank you, Dave.
That's all I had.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, we need to discuss it. So we'll make sure, I think, in terms, it is a priority to make sure that we get information out about people. I think some of the details are not yet worked out at this point, but I think we really want to make sure that perhaps at our next board meeting, sure that can share perhaps our superintendent's report, and then also make sure we're using our website, social media channels to. But yes, we missed tonight. The objection. Thanks for noting that.
Thank you. Jeff Bergstrom sent a note to Dr. Scanlon requesting if we can name the SRS basketball courts in the name of the late Kevin Newsom. Kevin was instrumental in setting up that whole redevelopment of the old tennis courts, raising all the money for the basketballs and basketball backboards that are there now, stands that are there now. He devoted a lot of his time to SRA in coaching, and I do have a letter here. We shared with the committee, and it's something that the committee can propose to the board to.
Yeah, so the process here, there is policy laid out for this type of request. And so policy essentially says that these types of requests come before the Facilities and Finance Committee. The committee doesn't decide whether or not to say yes or no, but does make a recommendation about it going before the full. And so that's the task for the committee this evening. So I don't know if the three other committee members had a chance to do that request. Have to weigh in, but. They're not ready to find security issue with the rule.
Favor.
Yeah, I mean, I see no issue with it, other than the way in which we approach this should be more, right? Like, they happen to write an email and we're gonna rename a court. We don't know who else might be worthy of that. see any evaluative ability for it. I mean, he seems like a phenomenal person, obviously instrumental in those sports. And how do we actually weigh a decision?
Yeah, and I had the same, because, I happen to have known the individual, happen to have, really a lot of personal experience with his role. And so, it was very easy for me to kind of digest, process this information. But it immediately raised the question in my mind, like, how do we evaluate these decisions? Broadly, it just so happens that I have personal experience here that kind of shape my understanding of this impact, which is so I do think maybe we have a policy that simply says it goes before this committee and this committee makes a recommendation. I don't know if perhaps there's like administrative regulation that needs to be developed that we have some way to kind of think through these requests future. The other thing, I feel like this is really a decision. The administration makes these determinations. So maybe what I would suggest is that we engage our solicitor to try to think through how these types of requests could be handled in the system. If the committee is comfortable with this case, then it's
So,
7:22.
yeah, and maybe even some how other districts have generally I think it's all criteria.
Um, in changing the name, is signage going to be put up that says,
I think the request was that there would be some sort of plaque or something like that. But not like a big,
just like the
yeah,
rainproof sign that says, and then as the district, would we have a like a grand opening of the new main court where the board is present and you cut the ribbon,
yeah, we can think
people
through that.
come to the,
So I think
I have
that,
one thing.
yeah, go ahead.
So as we think about any administrative regulation, so I work in higher education fundraising, meeting stuff all the time. And we have a due diligence process ahead of time to make sure that we're not naming something for somebody that has something in their past that will be upsetting.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, so now, again, you know this personally, I don't, right, so I would want that to be certainly part of our process.
I would get or solicitor is what districts use to exchange it. So I think we'll move this to the full board.
Our next meeting is April 23rd in B226. Plus meeting 5 minute with 3 minute break.
3 minute break.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah. Other practice.
Right.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome to our Finance Committee meeting today, March 19, 2025. Take roll call. Finance Committee members present today. Dr. Grande.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Holbert. Here. I would also like to acknowledge our board members present for today's meeting. Welcome. Please see our mission and vision statement and the role of the Finance Committee meeting protocol. On today's agenda, we have roll call, approval of the February 19, 2025 meeting minutes, and updates, contract, 25-26 budget, phase 3, which phase 3 is normal budgetary request, 25-26 budget expenditures to be determined information that's to be determined, the agenda for the April 23rd, 2025 Finance Committee meeting, review of February 2025 bills list. Have the committee members had time to review the February 19th meeting minutes? May I ask for a motion to approve? May I ask for a second?
Second.
Thank you. First up, we have some business office updates. First update, I think back in January, we let the committee know that our district is under a administrative review for the National School Lunch Program. And this type of review takes place every 5 years. There's an on-site, I told the committee before, there's an on-site and an off-site portion of the review. The on-site review took place on February 25th at NPE. We had a representative from PDE, his name was Scott Steinman. He came on site. He met with myself and the nutrition group team. While he was there, we observed both breakfast and lunch. And then a part of that observation is making sure we're in compliance with how both breakfast and lunches ran, making sure we're accounting for a full meal price, making sure we're in compliance with posters that should be posted, follow our food choices, things like that, both breakfast and lunchtime. And then while on site, after he observed both breakfast and lunch, he also requested some backup information supporting our programs that he just witnessed. So an example would be like, while he was on site, we participated in a special meal program. We had a 5th grader come down and collect all the milk. So it's pretty cool that we incorporate our 5th graders with our kindergartners. So he witnessed it and he just asked us about the program and some written instructions on how we run it. And every time he asked for something, we were prepared for it. So it was pretty cool to witness in person. While he was there, we got pretty high praises on being organized and having really good looking food choices for our kids. We did pretty well. This was my first time being a part of an administrative review. We were found not to be at high risk, so we're following the rules that we should. We were compliant in 12 out of the 14 categories. And the 2 things we were found not to be compliant, we already addressed them. There was a non-discrimination statement that we had to have, a revised statement that came out, I think, 2-3 years ago. And we had to update every document that we have as a district. We had to update the statement, and we just needed to update it in different places. So we did that, and we were good to go. The next step after the on-site, Scott has 21 days to give us a final write-up of how we did. And then after that, if he has any further suggestions, then we have 30 days to respond to that. But overall, we did really, really, really well. And I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the nutrition group and their team. And they played a huge part of us being in compliant and being very well organized. And if I may, I would also like to give a kudos to Stephanie. One of her main responsibilities is overseeing the food service programs. And I would also just say that the success of that review is a testament to the work done every day. A lot of times with audits, we'll usually gear up when they know the audit is coming. Again, we kind of go by simple philosophy. You do it right every day. You don't ever have to get yourself ready. We're always at first, we are always looking for the components of it. I said, the two, review feedbacks were minimal. And like I said, we've already corrected them, but they gotta know something. But we did pretty well. The next business office update is, a new process to the business office. This process is to address outdated checks, still out there on our books. We are going to file a claim with, PA Treasury Department, our unclaimed process. When checks remain outstanding for a long time, it's just, we're gonna start going after, when they're 3 calendar years old. So moving forward, any outstanding AP checks or payroll checks within 3 years, we will start the unclaimed property process, which would take place, we'll start January of each year. We would go through our list, check the dates, compile a list together. The next step, you have to send out a due diligence letter to your payees to say, hey, you still have this check is still showing outstanding, you still have it, and then you give them some time to respond to us. We give a April 1st deadline to respond to us, because the file with the state is due February 15th of each year. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you, April 15th of each year. Any check less than $50 just automatically gets sent to unclaimed property. And those letters that I spoke of before, they're for anything higher than $50. So it's a good practice to implement for our business office. And our checks, we are on top of. So we're not getting them a lot faster and going after their outstanding. Juana's pretty hard on them. Let's go. Our check's still outstanding. So any current information, we're pretty current on. So. And with that, I would like to thank our two staff in our business office, Kristen Zepko and Keisha Graham. They know their role really well, extremely well. This process is new, so it's just like, we're going to start this new process. And they just said, okay, jumping in, what do I need to do? And they were ready to go. And we've been getting a lot of responses and we're tracking them. And I just want to thank them for just being willing to jump in and let's just clean things up so we can be better moving forward. I would also like to mention the district had checks dated back to 2015, still on books on payroll checks. We actually have checks for people that it doesn't. So, again, we want to kind of keep it current, keep it clean as much as possible. So the next update I'll do is on the food service equipment the district has purchased this year. We discussed this in great detail at the November Finance Committee meeting. As you recall, every year the district has to do the financial report for food service. If you have access funds, there's a certain dollar amount, there's an average of 3 months of expenses you're allowed to keep in that account. Any money over that technically has to be utilized. PDE does provide how those funds can be used. You can use it to buy food service equipment, which we have done. We know we did have a great amount of food service equipment in our overall capital needs plan, but the benefit here is we can actually use, instead of using tax dollars, we can use the excess funds in our food service account. So like I said, these are the items we talked about specifically buying at the November meeting. So I just wanted to do an update on where we stand for each school. Like I said, this information has been posted so people can, review it at their leisure. But the open air merchandiser at the high school, there's a 200 daily increase in out park sales and also an average daily participation increase of about 30 kids a day. Like I said, most of it is displayed. I did want to just bring reference to 2 things that haven't yet to be completed. The dishwasher at the high school is set to be installed during spring break, as well as the pre-rent sink basket should have been installed at SRS. And the biggest project was West. We were doing a whole new service line. They were getting 2 hot wells, 2 cold wells, and a new cashier register stand. Everything has already been put together. It's ready to be delivered. TNG, which is nutrition group, is working with our current maintenance team to remove the old service line so they can just move new equipment. That's also something that will more than likely happen over spring break. We disruption to students. With that, of course, there's still more equipment that needs to be replaced. Again, as mentioned at the original meeting, after we purchased those things, we still had about 140,000 in excess funds that we had to spend. So we talked about having another go around to see if some things. The nutrition group provided some new equipment considerations. Now, the money that we currently have, that 140, will not address everything on this list. So again, nutrition group has a scheduled walkthrough to have vendors come through, do specs, provide some additional quotes, and then again, we're going to use their expertise to say, hey, what equipment do we need to replace right away? What things can we hold off on? And again, maybe even address next year. I think that's the benefit of having a better understanding of how that account works. If we have excess funds, we can use that money every year to kind of address this list until we get all of our kitchen updated. But again, what I provided here is for each school, the equipment item, and then the existing problem with the equipment that we have. So again, this information has been posted in the year. Next update, I want to present some additional confirmed budgetary changes for next year. We did receive our DCIU budget for 25-26. There was $127,000 increase in our technical school budget. This will be added to phase one because again, this is the obligation for us to provide. That increase, that budgetary increase was due to our enrollment increasing. That budget for each school district is determined by your district average enrollment, which they take the last 3 years as a percentage of the entire program. So for the last 3 years, the district's enrollment has increased by average of 23 kids, which is awesome. And so this year, the district total students make up 4.35% of the total enrollment of the technical school program. Last year, we were only 3.26%. So again, yes, that cost went up, but we also have a lot more students utilizing that service, and which is a really good thing. There was also a $120,000 increase in other provided service. Again, that is another thing that will be added to phase one. That was due to we have a student that attends additional support DCIU program specific for that student need. So again, that's what drove up that cost. But we also had a decrease in our early intervention services and our special education services. I do want to mention at this point, again, why it's important that we're moving to this multi-year cycle. Because while we have a decrease in early enrollment this year, we already know we have about 30 other kids for next year. So that's going to be going into the 26-27 budget. And early enrollment, early intervention, which means that's going to go up significantly. And again, as we're moving forward talking about capital need, those are also students that 2 years after that will actually be enrolled in our district. So that's something that we have to plan for. So again, this is why we need to start thinking futuristically, because again, 30 additional students in early intervention, that alone, depending on your special education requirements and number of kids you can have, it's like 4 classrooms. Just with that income. So again, we need to start planning proactively for that. So the net increase for DCIU next year is $185,000. Our prescription rates remain the same. They have been the same for like the last 2 years. And then our medical final block actually did increase again to 5.76. Our first look was 5.28. However, I started building our personnel budget to 5.28. So the actual increase we already did with the change would be, it's only an additional $30,000 in what we've already started building with our budget. So it's not that impactful. This is an actual email I received from our insurance carrier, because again, when I saw 5.67 increase, I said, you gotta explain that to me, because that's a lot of money. So what they explained to me was very simple. Just read it in general. Employers are seeing 30 to 40% increases due to COVID claims. Finally kind of hitting your calculations. Like I said, they kind of do an average of your claims. Most school district medical trends are seeing around 7 to 8% increases. Wallingford, we had an increase by over $1 million compared to the prior year. That finally kind of came into our calculations. However, because the district had a good amount of money built up in the reserve, again, we participated in that trust. So again, we pay our payment, the DCIU gives payment where you pay 2 months and then 10 months, or you can pay monthly. So again, because we sent our payments in 2 months and 10 months, you kind of earn some interest there. So it kind of works in our favor. So because of our reserve, our increase, this was when we got the first look, it was only going at 5.23%. So what I also provided here, I know it might be a little hard to see, this is the actual report we received from the DCIU that has all of the county schools. all of their increases, we were actually, I think, the third or fourth lowest. DCIU's insurance is actually going up 24%. Rose Tree is going up almost 13%. And you have some other districts in the 7. So again, we were actually one of the lowest. If you also look here, this yellow line captures the reserve adjustment. We had a minus 6.7% because of our reserve. So you actually look at our insurance could have went up about 10%, but because of that money we had in reserve, it didn't. But I also would like to mention this year and last year, the district medical actually decreased 3% respectively. So we're kind of just going back to where we were 2 years ago. Again, one of the conversations I did already have with HR is, again, we want to start preparing and looking for in the future. So what we're going to start discussing is possibility looking at medical trends. Are there some other things that the district can do? Of course, not to disrupt any of the services or the quality of services that our employees receive, but we do want to start being mindful if this is the trend we're moving forward. We want to be proactive about those type of things. So again, our medical costs is set to increase 5.76%. But compared to the county, it was actually one of the lowest for increases. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Kersey to present the contracts.
Thank you. Contracts for, we have 9 contracts to consider for March's board meeting. First contract on our list, we have Triangle Communications. This is a new radio system contract. It's a security and communication solution for the district. I would like to mention that this will be an upgrade to our current system. It will provide better coverage and enhanced reliability, enhance security and emergency response capabilities, and improve communication with the drivers in case of emergencies. And as you can see there, the cost breakdown, cost not to exceed what we currently pay, and what the annual fee would be. Our current radio system is analog in 2025. Several of the contracts are actually going to see things agreement today, and probably in next month, is more preparation for the summer next year. So we are incurring some costs this year to make sure everything is up and running and prepared for next year. But again, these are one of those cost avoidance investments because, okay, I know you're seeing the additional $66,000, but we're currently paying $9,700 a year for radios that are going to be working have. Pay $9,700 a year for radios that haven't worked. So again, when we talk about the cost avoidance and safety and different things like that, several of the contracts you'll see today are actually gearing for. Next we have, thank you, Ms. Muncy. Next we have Eagle Wireless, which is new. This is the GPS transportation solution for the district. This will be replacing Synovia, which is the current GPS system that will expire July 31st of this year. That brand is actually slowly being phased out in the industry, so it was time for us to seek other options for the district. This providing a GPS unit for each school bus and software program to track vehicles. This will also serve a multi-purpose for the district to be able to monitor driver performances, vehicle diagnostics, and help optimize cost accountability across the board in our operational safety for this bus drivers transportation.
Can I just clarify real quick, since this one's new and it's replacing our current system, is there a current cost of the current system?
Yes. So the initial cost for the upfront fee we're paying this year is about $5,500. The current cost for Synovia is about $10,800 a year. So it's about $1,300 more than what we're currently paying, but we're also getting a lot of additional bells and whistles.
So just a suggestion for the future, we might want to create a category, get new, and then we're renewal. There's these are replacements, where we're changing something, and so just understand, that makes it look like it's entirely new money, but the annual component, while it's an increase, it's not really $12,000. It's the difference between 12,000. Just so folks do that mental.
Next on our list is Power School, Time Clock Plus, parent company of Power School, or the parent company is Power School. This will be new. This would be, this is an automated employee time tracking software, which we're really excited about this. Right now, we are tracking time with our time manual paper time sheets. So moving to an automated service is a huge plus. I don't know what else to say about this one. It's worked out. It's a win-win. I mean, from the end user to the administrative assistant to the approving manager to payroll. It's just going to simplify some things, help automate. It comes at a perfect time because it integrates with e-finance, and we're currently getting training on upgrading with e-finance, and that's all I have for that. I'm looking forward to it. And so is our payroll specialist. Next, we have Bennerton, and this contract is for motivational speakers. Their brothers, their names are Ben and Daniel. They will be speaking at a student assembly. These speakers will present on how inclusion and kindness helps those with autism and the effects of autism in individuals and their families. You can see the cost here. Next, we have JMW Entertainment Group. This is a contract for a three-hour DJ and sound package, DJ sound and lights package for the 8th grade dance. Next, we have SOS Staffing Services. Then you see the cost, the cost for this current year. So we wanted to mention SOS provides support staff position, such as clerical, secretary, and custodial. We would utilize this on an as-need basis, and it's important just to keep the district operational. If we are down a position, we can contact SOS and they can get us someone in. Next, we have Press. This is an amendment to our current contract for Dr. Scanlon. We want to amend his original contract, shifting the responsibilities from acting superintendent to acting director of curriculum and transitional consultant. Next, we have a RICO renewal. RICO is our copier servicing company. This lease will include upgrades to 15 existing copiers with printing and scanning features for each copier. And the cost per copy service agreement includes service and supplies. So I just wanted to make sure we know that gets us, if there's anything wrong with it, we can just call for service and supplies for the copiers. Next, we have system integration with Food Power School. This is currently being used. It's currently being used in HR for our application process. This enhancement will help reduce double entry during the hiring process. And again, just trying to work smarter, not harder. That's all I have for contracts. Thank you. So now I'm going to present the phase 3 portion of our budget. Phase 3 again is just normal budgetary requests, so books, supplies, travel, professional development requests. The responsibility of our budget managers are to submit requests based on basic annual needs. So again, they review their existing budget, the actuals, kind of look at trending where they are, what they have spent, and then again present any additional programming or ideal thoughts, supplies that they may need, wish or want to implement. Again, I do want to thank Dr. Baddick, who actually did a lot of sit downs with different budget managers that she's supervising. Again, we're also trying to make sure those requests are tied into a bigger picture. So again, instead of a lot of things continuously happening in silos, making sure they're tying into the overall vision of the district, overall strategic plan. Again, we're not just implementing programs that people may not know about. Again, making sure it has, like I said, that uniformity necessary. After those requests come into the business office, we review all those submissions and conduct a cost analysis based off of historical data and detailed descriptions are provided by the budget managers. I do also want to thank my budget managers. This is the second year we did this. Last year was more heavy lifting. Again, this is all new to them. Like I said, I do have to give a big kudos to them for the work they did. Much better job of providing extensive detail. Like I told them, I don't necessarily just want to cut things. If I get something submitted and it's very generic, I don't necessarily know how important it is. Again, I'm looking at numbers. If I see you haven't spent that much as of this date,
kind of hard for me to justify asking for more. But again, like I said, they kudos to our budget, they did an excellent year with all of their budgetary, the amount of detail, providing how it benefits the district, different things of like how long the programming will actually need to be in place. So again, so we can really strategically look at implementing these type of programs and initiatives. So the total, phase 3 was about a little less than 4.8 million this year. That's about a $2.1 million, 31% decrease. So before you say, well, Ms. Miller, that's amazing. Most of that was due to, again, moving budgetary expenditures to phase 1. Remember last year, the preventative maintenance was new. We never did that before. We know that's something we have to do going forward. So that expense was officially to phase 1, as well as a couple other student services expenditures. Again, better understanding of not just contractual obligations, but mandated obligations that we have to provide. So we moved tuition for approved private schools. That payment usually comes out directly out of our subsidy by PDD, or where our 40-10 split. These are students that were approved to attend private schools where the state pays for a portion of it and the district pays for the balance. Again, that's an automated mandated expense, so we moved that to phase 1, as well as some other ESY related services for out-of-district placement. So again, we have students that are out of district, they do also attend and get ESY. We move those expenditures. Those 3 things combined was about 1.8. So again, there still was a decrease in phase 1, in phase 3 of about $250,000. Again, we did implement some multi-year contracts. So by instead of doing those annual renewals, locking those contracts in for more periods of time, we either were able to keep our costs consistent or minimize the increases. And again, by locking those contracts in, they moved to phase 1 as well. And again, these were also some adjustments made to the baseline. We talked repeatedly about as the district moved to this multi-budget year cycle. We knew this year there were some things that putting a number in based off historical trends, and we know we're going to analyze and see, did you really need that much? We talked about it at the preliminary meeting, budget presentation, as well as the final. This was our baseline year. So there are some things that were going to be a little high and a little lower. So again, we were able to actually move about $250,000. But I will also say, as we continue to move to this multi-budget year cycle, we actually want phase 3 to decrease because that means more of our costs are predetermined, which is good for the district because the more that you know in advance, the proper we can plan in the future. So again, that's the goal. We actually want our phase 3 costs because these are kind of just my ask. The more things that we already know 2-3 years out, it gives the district a better chance to plan, especially when we know we have a large project like the 10-year capital plan coming up. So what's not yet finalized? The board has to approve the Act 93 compensation plan. I do believe that's going to be actually approved at the March board meeting, as well as the support staff collective bargaining agreement. I do believe that's going to be approved at this month at the March board meeting. We still have to meet with confidential grouping of employees and exempt supervisors. That's next on the list. A lot of the benefits offered in their employee group are based off of Act 93, which is why that was the focus of getting that approved first. But we did receive the initial request from the confidentials, and we should be receiving it from the exempt supervisors. So the business office will start working on the cost analysis of those tasks. And then within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be meeting with those groups of employees. We do have our first meeting scheduled with the Teamsters, which are our bus drivers and aides. That's the first week of April. So again, hopefully by the May meeting, we'll have that contract approved. And then phase 4, which is the final part of our budget request, that's personnel. That was actually emailed to budget managers on March 17th. We've been discussing that in advance so they knew when it was coming. We already did receive some submission. And again, kudos to those budget managers that submitted that information. It was very detailed. The questions that was asked was we need to know in advance, where would this position be located? Because that's important from a spacing standpoint. Who's going to be their supervisor? What group of employees will they be? What do you envision the responsibilities for this position? Because that gives us a chance to say, hey, this kind of aligns with this, or no, this is something that we probably can in a way add to another existing position. And then they also had to provide sample job description. So again, we're kind of covering a lot of bases at one time, which is really helping the district. All of that is due back to the business office by March 31st, and will be shared with the superintendents.
And then, the superintendents or and HR director will share that information with me by April 11th. It will be included to be presented at the April Finance Committee meeting where we will present our whole entire, estimated preliminary budget. And then lastly is the board approval of the 10-year capital plan. The reason that's important from a budgeting standpoint, if you do recall, we did commit about $500,000 from the access funds that we had for future debt increases. But it is important where we want to really look at this capital planning. We will have a financial company come in and present those findings. I stated it repeatedly, we want to identify what's the cost every year, like how much money does the district need to borrow every year? And we want to be strategic about that. I want to be transparent is we want to plan for that probably 2-3 years in advance, especially knowing that there's a talk of a high school renovation project. That means there's going to be a few years in that 10-year capital plan where the borrowing capacity is much higher than others. So we don't want to kind of spring that all on the taxpayer at one time. So we want to plan appropriately a couple years in advance. So that's why that's important. Sooner as that's approved and we can see the borrowing needs every year, we can plan for that accordingly. So this is going to be the agenda for the April 23rd meeting. Again, we did present phase 1 originally in January, but we're going to do a revise. As I mentioned earlier, there are some expenditures that moved around. We presented phase 2, which is our strategic plan initiative cost at the February meeting. So I'll represent that. Phase 3 was presented today. I'll represent that, and then we'll, for the first time, present phase 4, which are all the added new positions for next year. Like I said, that presentation will not only reflect the cost, but where the person will be located, who's supervising them, and what's the expected goal that the district is getting out of this new position. We'll officially present our estimated projected revenues with the projected tax increase. And then lastly, the recommended use of the committed funds. This year specifically, the district we did add 2 committed funds, but the district has 4 altogether. We have a PSERS committed fund balance, which has $1 million. We have a benefits or medical bucket that has 1.5 million. This year, we committed 1.5 million to help mitigate any future tax increases. And there's about 477,000 that we committed for future debt service. So again, part of that presentation will be the recommendation of how to utilize some of those funds to help offset the tax increase. And I'll turn it back over to Stephanie. Thank you. Next, we will go over the February financials. On the first slide, you'll see the revenues for February. And as I say in other meetings, revenues consist of different things for the funds. Fund 10, the revenues are made up of local, state, and federal revenue, and also expenditure credits. Fund 32, 39, 71, they're made up of interest income for the month. Fund 51 are food services. That is made up of state subsidies and parent lunch account deposits and interest. Fund 81, we have our student activity deposits and interest. Also, I want to highlight what's new this meeting and moving forward. You will see a link to revenue actuals, which is a summarized visual of revenue received and its source. Can you back, please? And you all have a copy of that in your packet. So it's a summary of where we stand today, right now. See its source, local, state, federal. And then as you scroll down, you'll see exactly the different categories of revenue that we received. We did also provide copies for the public, so when they come in, they can see this. This is also posted on the website. It reflects the year-to-date actual, and it also compares the previous fiscal year, so you can see exactly where we were on this through fiscal 24 at the end of February, where we are now, and then the percentages of revenues. And Ms. Christie will also talk about the expenditures next. And then at the bottom, I'm like, there's a little revenue and insight that kind of did really summarize what you're looking at. So again, I know this is a lot prettier than the revenue status report. They're a little long and boring and dull, but so like I said, this is just a better visual for people to understand. Next, we have February's expenditures. Expenditures are, we have them totaled by each fund, and each fund ties back to a bills list, which is linkable. And I just would like to highlight that the payroll expenditures, I would like to showcase that in our February treasurer's report. Devin, can you pull up the treasurer's report? It's down just a little. Right there. These are our payroll expenditures for the month that ties back to the total amount for the summary for the February payroll totals. And just like the revenue actuals, we have expenditure actuals through this meeting and moving forward. And it shows our expenses summarized, the visual summarize of the total expenses and its expense categories. So you got your salary and your benefits, your purchase services, and your supplies. And it's also broken down in different compared to last year to date, current, however we stand currently in the percentages of this movie just stated for revenue, which is anything for expense.
Right. In terms of the committee, I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page about the budget timeline. So please correct me if this is say something wrong, but so our April committee meeting, we will discuss and see some of what's proposed as changes to the budget. Then we'll be back in the committee in May to see the proposed final budget. Then there will be a board meeting following week where the board will vote on the proposed final budget, but that's not to actually approve the final budget. That's to approve the proposed final budget. And then we'll be back in June to actually approve the final. So those are the steps in front of us in terms of the budget. So,
Yes, and
correct.
if I may just want to add there, I know a benefit to the district and also to the community. I know we want to be able to approve that final budget earlier, which school districts are allowed to do. Again, there was a heavy lift because we had 5 different employee groups at the table this year and getting the capital plan. But after this year, we're in a really good spot where most of our expenditures, we're talking probably 92% of our expenditures are predetermined and already known for the next 2 years. So we will be in a position where, yes, the district would be able to approve those final budgets earlier in the year and not towards the end of the year, because like I said, that's why we're moving in the direction of more of our expenditures are known earlier in advance, so we can kind of look at this thing to 3 years.
So it's always a good reminder too that we have to complete the sex state test. And so there'll always be a part that unless magic happens and things get done early, that there's some guessing in state budget. So it's here where we have to make some assumptions about what we think will happen. Anyway, let's get to questions.
Thank you both. That was great. I don't have any questions.
Congratulations on the administrative review. My younger son, Elliot, goes to MB, so I'm glad he didn't mess anything up.
I love seeing those kids, they're so cute.
So thanks for walking us through the projected increase for benefits and the fact that we had money in reserve. So is that a reoccurring thing that we'll be able to have that reserve offsetting
Yes,
the total amount? Because what they're saying is coming down the pike is 7. And so we don't want to have 20% increases in our.
so to your point, if you look at that specific, our reserve has actually would help offset why we had our medical decrease the last 2 years. Like I said, what really kicked in here was that first year of COVID. That was a big jump. Everyone was going home to having to go back to the doctor. So again, already had a conversation with human resources. Let's try to get ahead of this as much as possible. So let's look at different things that we can look at and plan accordingly. Does that mean it'll increase again like that next year? I cannot say. But again, but we want to start being proactive.
And then just one more thing, moving phase 3 to phase 1 makes perfect sense. Is it also the case that if we can stabilize the amount of phase 3, that is also in essence a projected cost, right? Like if we can say like phase 3 is always gonna be around $4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even if you project, you know, we should start looking at trends now that we're developing this cycle. Phase 3 is increasing 3% every year. I can project that out. The key word I want the board and the community to remember, what the district wants to focus on is quality. Basically, once a plan, so I can reallocate existing dollars to serve them how we do them this year. That's always going to change. So again, that's what we really want to look at and why planning is so important. If I know, again, we're talking about a capital plan that in year 3 or 4, high school project is kicking in, I know that today. So I can start making adjustments and planning today for something that's going to happen in 3 years. So that's why we really want to move to the multi-level cycle and the safety things are locked in. With much of our expenditure.
Can I add, a part of phase 3, Ms. Mosley works really hard to educate our budget managers to give justification for phase 3. So you can't just say, I want 600,000 for supplies when we're going to ask you why and show us.
That didn't happen.
That didn't happen, but yeah. Justification is a big part of phase 3. I just want to give it to us. Start at 0 and justify it.
Just a couple more clarifications on the process. Do you know, this may not be planned yet, are you planning on presenting, to the board and the community at a board meeting, like in April or May or something like that, like you have in the past?
Yeah, so which is also why there were some changes made to the finance committee, and I'll mention that to the committee meeting in May and June, as well as the board date, because legally we have to present this information, so we do have to publicly present the the preliminary budget, which I will do at the finance committee meeting as well as the board meeting. There has to be a certain number of days that's available to the public to view, and then present the final budget. Again, that will happen in the June and finance committee and board.
And then one more, and then at that point, at what point do we expect to see some estimate or whatever as to?
So what I'm presenting in April is the estimated preliminary. Right. That's where we're, like I said, what we hope to be finalized by that time are, of the outstanding bargaining groups that we have to meet. So we still have an ideal projection of what those costs will be. So that's why this is really like a soft version of the preliminary budget you will see in May. We don't want to people wait until May to kind of figure some things out. So that's why we're presenting in April. Here's like where we think we'll be or where we really are, barring these few things that have to be done.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, the time clock system, any back of the envelope system spent this since now that we're going to save.
So, just to give you a better understanding of the full effect, we have employees who fill out paper timesheet, which sometimes get lost, sometimes it's not added correctly on the sheet. At the end of the day, I tell people the business office does what it's told, we pay the salary that HR tells us to pay you, we pay the number that's calculated in your timesheet, we pay the invoice that was signed by a business manager. We don't really make decisions, we do what people tell us to do. But again, we get timesheets, the hours, we may didn't receive it, may have missed it. Sometimes people are not getting reimbursements or getting additional pay because we have yet to receive the timesheet. It's a paper timesheet sitting that was in our office somewhere that we haven't received yet. We did implement the payroll submission calendar, which has been great. Staff have been amazing getting things submitted, but we have a deadline date. So for it to be included in a certain pay, like everything for next pay was due today, yesterday at 4 o'clock. So if we didn't receive it by 4 o'clock, we can't add it to the next pay. So if there's those delays, so these are all little things that happen that impact people's livelihoods. So what we're trying to do with the time clock, it will eliminate having to clock in. The timesheets, they will be able to clock in on their phones. There will be a geotag, which means they have to be at their location. We also will have actual time clocks in the building. Again, we're gonna work out some things. I know some people watch the meetings and say, Ms. Mosley, we don't want anybody to worry. Everything will be fully explained. We will have the proper training. This is also why we're trying to, we're starting it now, so we can get the system built. I mean, it simplifies where we're talking all, we're the all-time team. So ESY, our teachers who come and work in the summer and do curriculum writing or work for them, they will literally just be able to clock in on their phone, no matter what their work they're doing for the district. Our salary, our teachers, the normal day will not have to clock in, but again, we have teachers who do class coverages. Instead of filling out a paper and submitting it, you can do everything on your phone. It goes right to directors. They see it online. It literally goes right into our payroll system, which means our payroll person does not have to manually enter anything. What we're doing is removing human error out of this. No one has to touch it. So we're trying to increase and ensure the paycheck is going to be exactly what you expect.
One other question I had is, it has been an excellent practice. I'm glad we're moving to these multi-year agreements. But with that, we need to make sure that we continue to follow the market. And so to understand whether there's potential cost savings, go back out the market and to renegotiate something early. I'm just curious how we can make sure we maintain that practice in the district in terms of making sure we're periodically reassessing.
So if I may speak a little early here, one of the phase 4 submissions that I personally made is for a purchasing supervisor, which this person actually managed all of our contracted services. So different things where we would be able to actually have someone's job is to analyze existing application contracts that we had, compare them to the current market rate and say, hey, we found been using this company for 10, 15 years, but there's a better service, there's a better price. That's what the person's job will be, where we can say, you know what, this is something we need to put out to the paper. Since I've been here, we haven't been here. But again, also just not doing status quo. And again, there's a lot of benefits there. The district utilizes CoStar a lot, which is usually costs more. We really just pay a fee to get on the CoStar list. It's not really anything special. It kind of allows you to circumvent, and legally circumvent the full bid process. But CoStar is intentionally for something that's really, really urgent. We utilize it for everything. So I did submit that request to add that position. Yes, it was not adding a position, but there's possibly with that position where we can bid service and get better pricing. And then even if we maintain some of the same vendors, at the end of the day, if they have to be competitive, you're going to get a better price as opposed to us just giving company the same company.
Contracted services, like in the district that certainly keep a lot of benefits.
And just to add to that, as part of that position, I already reached out to legal to obtain contractual templates for professional services, equipment, lease, all of that. Right now, a lot of our practices, the company we hire submits their contract to us, and we need to go back and forth with legal. By us having these templates, these are already tailored to exactly what the district wants, what our insurance requires, and basically we're just plugging in the information that we actually want. And if you can't fit that model, then we can find another company that can. So we've already reached out to legal to kind of have that information already ready.
Any other comments?
I have a question. Because of the erratic behavior of the man who is occupying the White House, and you know, he is big on getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Any operation that is using that is subject to lose their funding. So do you have a plan B if we lose our federal funding?
So I think it was last month, we specifically talked about the total federal dollars that the district received. It's about $1.4 million. There's been a lot of I know the federal courts have been denying, pushing back on what he's proposing. Don't foresee anything happening next year, but we did discuss that. And yes, there is something by me having that dollar amount in the back of my mind, that is something that we can properly plan for accordingly. Again, the benefit for the district is we do have our unassigned fund balance, we do have the committed fund balance. And then again, that's us being strategic about when, how, and why things need to happen. So I would always say yes. We kind of bet those things are coming up, but again, by us planning in the future, we can, even if something like that was to just suddenly happen, we're in a position where we're probably plan.
So how will that work for the breakfast and do we still do free lunches? Or,
So lunches are through the week. Again, that was included in the presentation. We talked specifically about the National Food Lunch Program, how much federal dollars we receive for breakfast. Free breakfast is through the state. So we get that state money. That has nothing to do with money. And we have about, I think, 18 and 19% of our students are free.
Yeah, and so there, if, Tawana did a nice job last month, there's a slide in there or two that summarize all the current, federal sources of support for the district. And so, while we've been unhappy over the years about the federal government not keeping up with funding for things like, special education, the flip side of that coin is, we're not highly leveraged, as a organization, on federal dollars. I think Rachel had one.
I actually do have kind of a little bit of a follow-up to that regarding the amount of federal revenue that we've received so far this year. It's 10%, I believe, what's expected or we. Is that because the money usually comes in toward the end of the year, or what's the thought around that? And also, I can piggyback on it, right above that is the 44% from the state. Are we expecting that? Like, I know sometimes they come in big chunks toward the end of the year, so I just want to.
So state reimbursements is a very specific schedule, depending on what it is. There are some funding that come on all even months, August, October, November, December. There are certain sections. They have a specific schedule. Whatever your allocation is, depending on what it is, you get 15%. And then at the end of May, June, you get the balance of whatever you're owed. To answer your federal question, that line is specifically due to ESSER. That we also talked about.
Right.
well, I kind of
We're still
just
waiting.
brought that up because I know that there's a lot of parents and people that are concerned about what's going on because every day it's another hit against something. So I kind of asked that for a friend.
And we, like I said, we talked about the total amount of all of the different federal revenue sources the district received, but Dr. Brown said that's in that presentation. We also talked about, we received a couple, that people are inquiring about lunch for students. So I did actually send out a memo that was posted on the website. If people are interested in making donations, how they can do that, the process to do that, and then how we can apply those things. We cannot give out student specific information, but people can send donations to help out. And we have received a small donation to get to it.
So I would encourage people, like, direct people to the, in March, so direct them to the February, Facilities and Finance Committee meeting if they want to see the specifics of the federal dollars.
Okay.
But it is a relatively small share of budget, not that we don't want this. But I will just say in terms of the risk to the district,
Yeah, I
it's much
see.
lower than
It's
the
small.
district. Yeah. So, any,
Like I said, I just wanted to mention that there were some date changes. So I added them here. The May 21st Finance Committee meeting is changed to May 14th. Again, that's so we can publicly discuss any financial impact prior to the preliminary budget being presented. That board meeting date was also changed. And then as well, we changed the June date to June 11th. So again, we can publicly discuss this information prior to it being voted on. Because that's the next meeting. I always do. The next meeting is always in red.
I will now.
And
That's it. I mean,
All right,
thank you.
A lot of- Next up, appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go.